Hey everyone, it's Adi. Welcome to today's show. Today, in addition to the usual content of the show, I have also a special announcement at the end that I'm really, really excited about. So stick around. It's some exciting development. Okay, so today, what I wanted to do is kind of highlight five different signs that are kind of like red flags, that should be red flags, and really make it obvious that it's time to leave your job. And the reason I think it's so important to cover these is because what I see happening more often than not is that the women that I work with, or like just even not even like women who are my clients, but just people in general. Sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's just people that I happen to speak with, and hear of their situation. They make like this admirable effort to stay in a job even though these signs show up, and even though like in their hearts they know that it's not gonna that's not gonna work out, and that these are red flags. They kind of push it aside and ignore it because a lot of times, because they want to make that effort, they want to kind of like see it through, and and sort of like demonstrate that grit to themselves, and also just to because they believe that that's how they're going to do right by their career, that's how they're going to do right by their families, and like those are the things that are important to them. And what's ironic is that when you stay in your job in the face of these particular things, like if one or more of these five things that we're going to cover today are happening, then it's actually counterproductive exactly in those areas of your life. So it will actually work against you in your career. It will actually work against you in your family life. It will take away and detract from these things, and not sort of like keep them secure, as is often kind of like the the misconception or the story that is easy to buy into, and is kind of the reason that people do stay. Okay, so the first sign that it's time to leave your job is if your boss is an a-hole. And I know it sounds like a little simplistic, and it might even sound like childish or immature, but at the end of the day, life is too short to work for assholes. And I want to kind of make it clear, I'm not talking about a case where you and your boss are having a disagreement, or you disagree maybe on a lot of things, or you know maybe you have like a big difference in style. Those are not things that make your boss an a-hole. But if your boss is behaving like a bully, right? If they are constantly demeaning you for example, disagreeing, or for thinking differently, or for having a style difference, if they are putting you down, if they are, doing it either alone or in front of other people, kind of diminishing you and your worth, and in general just acting like a bully, then that is unacceptable a-hole behavior. And it's a very strong signal that you need to leave. And I know it's not fair. I know it's like they're the bully, they're the ones that should go. But we really don't have that much influence. It would be best if they just got replaced by someone who was like a great manager, but we don't have that much influence over, when our boss walks and who comes in to replace them and what they're like. And so unfortunately, in that scenario, it is time to like start looking for something better, because you deserve better. And no, they're not going to change. Not as much as you hope they will, as much as you want them to change. they're not going to change. So like I feel like the worst kind of cases that I see it with, there's like bullying behavior, bullying behavior, bullying behavior, and then they throw you like a bone of being nice to you, and it kind of throws you off. You're like, you were ready to go, you know, you were on LinkedIn, like looking at jobs, and you were already like reaching out to your contacts. Then suddenly they say, you know, they open the door and go, you know, I appreciate you, right? You know, something like that. And you just, in a way, it's even worse than somebody who's consistently a bully, because it's sort of like, it's kind of gaslighting and making you think like, wait, what's going on here? And I've seen that happening, you know, to very dear friends, and unfortunately, you know, the pull is very strong to stay despite, and to kind of hope that, you know, okay, let's say maybe like 3 or 4 months into the job, you kind of realize, like, your boss reveals their true colors. You see that they're a bully. You see it very clearly. But you kind of think to yourself, okay, well, I just need to last a year. I just need to last 2 years. I just need to last enough time that I don't look flaky, that I can put this on my resume, that this will be like a nice stepping stone to the next step in my career. And it seems like a reasonable way to think, except for when you break it down, you realize that with a bully for a boss, your performance is always going to be subpar, right? Like it's gonna take so much out of you just to show up to work at and like perform at the standard that you want to, that you need to, that you know you can, and that you know at your standard. So it's like either your career is gonna suffer because you're gonna do like subpar work, and you're gonna suffer, you're just not gonna play full out at work, or you will play full out at work, but in order to really like muster the strength and the energy to do that despite being bullied, you're basically like, you're siphoning that energy from other places in your life. And in that case, you know, you just, you know, and I've seen this happening to friends of mine, where they get home and they just don't have energy for their husband. They don't have energy for their kids. They don't have energy for their hobbies. They don't have energy for anything else. They just kind of want to zone out, and like they become so protective of their energy, which is a good thing in general, you know, but they should be protecting their energy from the bully in their life, not from the people who love them most and who are there to support them. So it really is, you know, there's a reason that this one's like top of the list. When you have a bully as a boss, it very rarely ends well. Okay, so that would be one sign that it's like, it's time to move on to better, greener pastures. And then the second one is, it's a little bit sneakier. It's when you are bored at work. So you might look at it and say, well, if I'm bored at work, that might mean that, you know, I'm so good at my job that I can do it in my sleep. It's so easy for me, and that's why I'm bored. And that might be true, but I want to argue that that's not a good thing, right? Like if you're not even a little bit challenged by the work that you do, what happens is you kind of start zombieing out, right? You're kind of like, okay, I'm so bored. Like, I can do this in my sleep. There's nothing happening here that's really challenging me. There's no growth happening for me. There's no growth available here. It's just mind-numbingly boring. And you start to kind of, you know, zombie out at work. And the kind of unfortunate thing is that not only do you not experience career growth, obviously, that way, but also because we spend most of our waking hours, like at least half of our waking hours, at work, what happens is there is kind of a spillover of the zombieing out into other areas of your life. So, like, once you kind of move into apathy, apathy doesn't know, like, oh, it's because I'm at work, that's why I'm feeling apathy. It just becomes your most frequent state, right? And it's a horrible place to be. Apathy is really like, it's worse. It's like indifference, right? It's worse than hate. It's worse than anger. It's worse than sadness. It's worse than all those negative emotions, because it's literally like nothing. I have nothing to, like, this isn't even worth me, like, feeling something over. And when you start bringing apathy to other areas of your life, they quickly, like, just lose. It just kills any option to live a life of joy. It kills any option to live a life of expansion and growth and happiness. And there's no way, like, if you're in apathy, if you spend most of your day in apathy, you're not living your best life. You're just not, So boredom, there is a risk, a very real danger, that boredom turns into apathy, and the apathy leaks into other parts of your life and just kind of empties and destroys those parts of your life one by one. So if you're feeling bored at work, you might have some time until that happens, but you want to watch out, right? Because one day you can look back and not really know how it happened, but realize that you've been living the last, like, 3 years in apathy. And I don't want that for you. Okay? Now, the next sign that it is time to leave the current job that you have is if you're not proud of the work that you do. So if you don't feel a sense of pride and value in what you spend, like I said, most of your day doing, it really is going to take a toll on your, I don't know how to say it except for, like, just your soul, you know what I mean? Because as human beings, I believe that one of our greatest needs is to do something that matters, or that we feel matters, that we feel has some kind of significance, and to feel like, we're not just living our lives, like, day in, day out, but we're doing something that we can look back and be like, I did that, I took part in that. And if you don't have that sense of pride, that sense of, like, you are part of something that is almost like a legacy, then you're quite literally wasting the best years of your life. You're wasting your potential. You're wasting away time, energy, skills, your mind. And those are all things that won't come back. And so what I found is that when you are in a place where you do feel those things, it becomes very easy. It becomes very easy to do the work that you do. Like, even the hard things are not so hard, because you are connecting them to something kind of bigger than yourself, and something bigger than just the task at hand. So it makes doing the task easier. But also there's, like, that spillover effect is that it happens here too. So, right, we were saying, like, when you live in apathy most of your waking hours, that will have a spillover effect into other areas of your life. And it's the same thing here. When you feel like you are, when you're so like juiced about what you do at work, when you're so into, the it doesn't even have to be like you're in love with the product. It doesn't have to be you're in love with the company's like mission statement. Those things can happen too, but I believe that there are many different ways to feel pride in what you do. And for some people, it's just like, I love going to work and knowing that I did a really great job, that I like totally maximize my skills, that I'm in mastery, and I'm like honing my craft as whatever your skills are. But if you can't get that from any part of your current job, then it really is time to look elsewhere and see, if there isn't another place where you could get it, because most likely there is. There are enough kind of there are enough like angles of a workplace that could give you that feeling. And if your current workplace isn't giving it to you in any capacity, or it's not enough, then definitely look elsewhere, because again, you want to make sure that the place where you're spending the most amount of time of your day is something that is filling you up and not draining you, because that it just impacts where you show up, like the way that you show up for the rest of your waking hours, right? And we want to make sure that that's a positive and not a negative. Now, the fourth kind of sign that it is time to leave your job is to have, when you have mismatched values with the company that you work in. So let's say that one of your biggest values is like extreme transparency and open communication. And the company that you work for is like very secretive. There's all those, closed door meetings. Everything's like on a need to know basis. There's very like, the communication's not very like straightforward. It's a lot of things are like hidden or said implicitly. You are not, there's like kind of two things at play here, which are the reasons, like come together to be the reason why it's so important to not stay in a place like that where your values are mismatched. And it's because like two things. First of all, when you don't have the same values, or when your values even like oppose, then you are never like, how do I say this? Like, you cannot, there's like, it is very, very difficult for people to live in a way that is out of alignment with their values, that is out of alignment with their belief system. You cannot do it for a long time without suffering a lot. So you are not going to be able to, like, it will hurt you to have to act out of alignment with your values. And if you act in alignment with your values, you won't belong in the organization, right? You're going to stick out like a sore thumb. And the second thing is that it's very, very, very difficult. Almost, I would say like it's I don't want to say impossible. I rarely use that word, but like I would say it's near impossible for an individual to change the cultural DNA of a company. it's like such, you will be just wasting so much energy trying to do that, that it is just not worth your time. It's not worth the heartache. It's just not worth it. They will not change. Okay? And so if you realize that there is a mismatch of values, and you know, it's one of the things that I work on with my clients is to recognize those before you even enter the workplace, because it's one of the things that is just you, that will dictate, like, is this going to work out or not. So when I teach my clients how to identify red flags, this is one big one that we cover, is like, you have to really make sure that the culture and you are in alignment. And so if you figure out, a little too late, when you're already working at the company, then it's like, listen, better late than never, right? And like, just get out of there ASAP, because it might be the source of the hurt and suffering that you've been feeling in your day-to-day. Okay? So if you've been feeling like out of alignment, and you've been feeling sad and cranky, and like it might not even be clear like why. Sometimes it's, if when you really take a look, you can identify that it is because you're acting out of integrity to your values, because you're in an environment that requires you to act like that to fit in. And you're kind of in this impossible situation where you're either, you either don't fit in the organization that you belong to, so you either don't belong, or you kind of betray your values. And again, I don't like to use the word impossible, but for the sake of this, making this case, it's an impossible puzzle to solve. Okay? And the last thing is just kind of like a very obvious, but people don't really, I feel like people don't give it enough weight. It's just like the unit economics of working there don't add up. So if you know that there is no growth potential for you, and it is your desire to grow, right? If the company, you see that their hiring practice is, instead of promoting people from the inside, like promoting the employees that they already have, they always hire from the outside. It's kind of a good signal that if your ambition is to advance in the company, but it is not in their practice, it is not their practice to let their employees advance, then you're at odds, right? And if you kind of look at it, if you are in a place when you're not happy with your salary, but you're kind of telling yourself, okay, I'll stick around, and I'll get like this steady annual raise every year. But a lot of times, if you're unhappy with your salary right now, and it's just really not meeting your needs, you really need to take a good look at, okay, well, how many years of an increase in salary is it going to take for me to be at a salary level that I find acceptable, right? To meet your goals, right? Because you have financial goals, and if your salary right now isn't meeting them, it's usually a lot of times it's better to just go work at a place that does meet those financial goals or closer to them, than to continue and try to get there by this like steady but very, very slow increase. Because what happens is, as time passes, usually for most people, so do your financial goals increase. So if you're saying like, okay, well, in like 5 to 10 years of working here, I'm going to be at my financial goal today. Well, in 5 to 10 years, your financial goal might double, and then you won't be there in 5 to 10 years. So this has like, there is a little wrinkle here where, you know, if the place is otherwise like wonderful and, you know, it meets all your needs and you're not pressed, like those financial goals are not as important to you, then you might be able to kind of like ignore that. But for most people, that's not the case. Most people, if the workplace isn't meeting their financial goals, there's also like that feeling that's hard to shake off, that they don't actually value you all that much. And I find that like even more than having the right salary, that feeling is very important. So it kind of goes together, right? Like a company demonstrates how valuable you are to them by, you know, with your compensation package. And if they don't pay you enough, they could say the nicest words in the world to you, but at the end of the day, like if you're underpaid, then chances are you're also undervalued. Okay? And again, there are exceptions to this rule, but that is the general rule. All right? So there you have it. Those are the 5 ways or 5 signs to look out for that are a pretty good indication that it's time to leave your job and look for something better. So now what I want you to do is, you know, if you are experiencing one or more of these things, and you want to talk about how you can take your career to the next level, then I want you to book a call with me. We'll take a look at everything that's going on in your career, everything that happened until now, the good, the bad, the ugly, and we'll take a look at where you want to go. And then we will try to figure out a plan for how you can get there. Okay? So again, if you're totally cool with where you are, there's no need, right? If you are not happy about where you are, but you know, you don't really want to do anything about it, then also like don't bother, right, with the call, because I can't help you unless you want to up level. Okay? But if you do have skills and you do feel that they are undervalued and you're undervalued, either because your work doesn't challenge you, or your boss is a bully, or you're doing something that you're not able to feel quite proud of, or the company and you have like totally mismatched values, or you're just not paid enough, right? And there's no way that it can be enough with like those little raises, then definitely book the call. Okay, so just go to thisilresistible.com/apply and pick a time slot in the calendar and we'll talk. Now for the announcement, I'm really happy to announce and tell you that I feel like I've built this up way too much, you guys. But we now have a Breakthrough to High Tech podcast. So if you're listening to this in the group, in the Facebook group, then you can find us, you know, and basically I think now like we're anywhere that you can find a podcast. I haven't checked all the podcast providers, but definitely check us out. Breakthrough to High Tech, that is the name of the podcast. And so what's nice about it is that you can kind of plug it in your ears and go about, you know, take your, you know, do your daily walk or your run, or do your dishes or whatever, and still kind of have this like this information in your ears that can hopefully like, you know, enlighten your day somehow and inspire you. And then if you're hearing this on the podcast, then what you might not know is that we also have a group called Destination High Tech Mom. So if you look us up on Facebook, you can join that group, and then it's a place where I also can answer all these questions that you guys might have. And yeah, that's it. So I am happy to, you know, keep creating more avenues for you to consume this. And yeah, let me know if there's anything else that you guys are wondering about, anything else that is kind of that has been on your mind maybe in terms of your career, and I can see, you know, how I can help with that. I want to make sure, as you guys know, that I'm creating, you know, that I'm really like speaking to things that are important to you. Okay, so that's it. I will see you guys next time. Bye.